I want to get to our guest on the show. We recorded this interview a few days ago on evictions in Oklahoma City, and I know you will find this incredible. And if you want more detailed information, you can visit okcrealestateshow.com. There's a link on there, evictions in Oklahoma City, where I get into the detailed cost if you want to do this yourself and the process if you want to do it yourself. But let's welcome Bob Kyle to the show today to talk about evictions in Oklahoma City. All right, I'm here with Bob Kyle. We're going to be having a casual discussion here on the eviction process in Oklahoma City. Bob Kyle has been in property management since 1995. In 2009, Bob started his own company, which is known as OKC Homes for You, a very successful property management company here in Oklahoma City that's been built on solid values, loyalty, good communication, and just good moral principles. I mean, basics of taking care of tenants and landlords at the same time so that it's a win-win for everyone. Bob, welcome to the show today.
Thank you.
Thank you for talking about such a serious topic such as evictions. Now, how common are evictions? And walk us through kind of the process of an eviction. So how common are evictions in Oklahoma City today?
They're not all that common in our experience. Our eviction rate is really small, and we're grateful for that. But when it comes time to do it, because you've not been able to work anything out with a tenant to maybe help them over a glitch that they've experienced, then when that becomes your only option, you have to take the process of serving them the 5-day notice and then letting that run its course. Then if they haven't paid, going and filing it with the forced entry and detainer court to get on the docket, and then wait for your court date, appear before the judge, present your evidence, and let the court make its decision in favor of the property manager for the landlord, or for the tenant, perhaps in some cases.
And what would you say is, from your experience, what's the number one reason for an eviction, or for a reason coming up that you wouldn't even need an eviction?
Well, we see it from several reasons. It could be a situation of a split up of the relationship. That happens. It can be job loss. That is frequent. It also can be medically related. Someone has, been in an accident perhaps, and I have to be off work. So it's kind of a catastrophic life event, really, that we often see lead to that. And we try to help where we can, but there's only so much we can do.
Now, most cases that I looked at for the Oklahoma County were due to late payment of rent. Are there some other cases that you would have an eviction?
You could if the tenants were conducting illegal activity in the property, and you could verify that. That would be a lease violation under your lease clause, and you could seek to get possession of the property under those grounds. If they had brought in other unauthorized occupants, they were only under a lease agreement to have so many occupants in the property, you could go before the judge and say, this is a lease violation, and seek to get possession of the property for that. So there are some things other than just non-payment of rent.
So each management company kind of does the eviction process a little different, or gets to the point. So what is your process when you get a tenant, let's say, that is now late? What does your process look like?
Well, when the tenants are late, and we consider them late if they have not paid by the end of the grace period, and for us it's 5 days. So on the 6th day of the month, we are out serving the 5-day notices and posting them on the property.
Which is required by law.
Exactly.
Yep.
That if you don't have that document, then you cannot start anything else. So that is step number one.
And that's just a written notice confirming to the tenant that, hey, listen, whatever you may have heard over the phone or whatever, my intentions in writing now are within 5 days, if we don't resolve X issue, whatever the issue is, we're going to evict you. And so that's got to be, posted on the door?
It can be posted on the door if no one's home, or it can be given personal service. So if you knock on the door and someone answers it, you can hand it right to the tenant. Or in Oklahoma, you can actually give that to anyone in the property that is 14 years of age or older, would constitute personal service. So And that holds up before the court. You just say, I give personal service to this person. You have to know their name on this date, and that will serve that purpose. But by posting it, then you're required by law to certify mail a copy to the residents as well.
I see.
And then once that return receipt comes to you, you've got evidence to show the court that it was properly served.
So once they got the notice, what percentage of people just figure it out and get back on the right track at that point?
Well, our success rate is really high. We probably get about 97% of the notices we post actually end up paying and avoid the eviction process.
Wow. Okay. So by far, the relationships you've built with the tenants, and obviously just your application process too, of just kind of going through and just making sure you get the right tenant in there. We'll talk about that in a minute. So what about this 3%? What happens then? Well,
once you have served your notice and you then filed it with the court to get on the docket, then the summons is issued to the tenant to appear in court, certain time, certain date. You stand before the judge when he calls your name. He asks you, do you owe the rent? And you answer this question. And tenants are truthful at that point. They're standing before the judge, so they're telling the truth, even though they have circumstances. But the judge's concern is whether or not you've paid your rent as agreed to by the terms of the lease you signed. And so he renders judgment for you, the landlord, at that time, and then the tenants have 48 hours from the day of the judgment to vacate the property.
Okay, so if they're usually, once the judge is saying you do have to pay your rent and you're out of that property, what's the percentage of people that don't stay, that actually stay beyond that point?
It's almost 100% of the time they're out. I think in the many years I've done this, I've had 3 or so actually still there when we come back 48 hours after posting the judgment on the door. So thankfully they're gone, because that makes it simple to come in, change the locks, take possession of the property, and start making it ready for another tenant. So it's not common at all that they stay.
Now, what happens if the tenant doesn't show up?
Okay, if the tenants don't show up for court date, then that's an automatic default judgment that the judge will render for possession of the property, not your back rents, but for possession. If you want to seek a collection of those back due rents, you'll have to go through a small claims action, something like that, and spend more time and more money to do that. Tenants sometimes will change jobs, so you now don't know where they're working. They've obviously moved to another residence. Tracking them down can take time and expense to do that, but that's what you have to do if you just get what they call the default judgment for possession.
For someone that's in a situation like that, do you recommend that they go ahead and pursue a judgment against that person, or just cut their losses and move on to the next tenant?
Most of the time we have found that it's better to take your losses. You'll have the security deposit that can apply to some of that, but the time it's going to take to track them down at a new job or a new residence.
Wait, so they can get their security deposit back even if they're evicted? Is that?
No, they forfeit that for us. Yeah, that's gone.
I see.
That's gone. But the owner has that money to apply toward cleaning and so forth and so on to make the property ready again.
I see. But yeah, continue on.
But if we're talking about just 1 month's worth of rent that you've not been able to collect, then my experience is it's not worth the extra legal cost and time to try to go after that. It's better to try to turn that property over and get the cash flow started again as quickly as possible. But some people come to me who've been trying to manage themselves and have let tenants get several months behind. And then they've got quite a bit of money out there, thousands of dollars in some cases. And that could then become well worth the time and expense to go find out where their new job is and serve them a small claims action. But it's we're not dealing with those types of numbers with any regularity whatsoever. We're actually talking 1 month's worth of rent.
Sure. Well, you're talking after your 5-day grace period, which is in the lease, then you've got your 5-day notice that you're posting. and then you're waiting on a court date, if during that, the 3%, now 97% of yours either settle up or come to an agreement that says, listen, I've lost my job, or whatever the case may be, I can't afford my rent anymore. And then I would assume you get with the owner of the property and you guys kind of figure out a best situation to then either allow them out of the lease and get a new tenant in there. Is that usually what happens in those cases? Or do they find the money somehow?
Well, some of them will find the money somehow. You know, they'll borrow it from friends or family member, or maybe they'll sell some things to get the money because they don't want to move. It's really not in their best interest to do that. But the owner will can only do so much to try to help, and if they can't come up with it, they can't come up with it. But the kind of losing my thoughts. Sorry, you have to edit that out.
Sure.
But anyway, so you know, most of the time, if we get to that point, you know, they're going to be gone. If we can get them to voluntarily turn possession over to us,
right,
and forfeit their deposit, and then avoid court, great.
Right.
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 That doesn't go on their record.
That's right.
We can come in
and they're out quickly.
And they're out quickly,
Yep.
which means the owner can get started again quickly. So we try to negotiate for, taking possession, in lieu of eviction.
After the court cost, after the eviction letters, after everything, what's the average cost of an eviction in Oklahoma City?
We use a law firm here in town to take care of those for us. But if you're in school, we have the attorney's fees on top of that. Those will run, $250 for all of that. That's for the filing, that's for the attorney time, and for even the writ of assistance after judgment, should you need that. If you're going to be doing that yourself, you can save, the attorney cost of that, but the filing fees will all be the same.
We've got a compilation on OKCRealEstateShow.com where we've actually broken down the eviction process, and we've got about I think it's like $150 the last I put if you're going to do it yourself. So for $250 and an attorney takes care of it for you, that's a pretty good deal.
We think so.
Yeah,
we think so, because the time it takes for someone in my office, myself or someone in my office, to go down and be the representative for the landlord is often not cost effective, because you'll spend half a day down there at the eviction court. They'll start at 10 a.m. You got to be there early a little bit, but so you're taking a good chunk out of your day to do that, and you can hire the attorney to do it for you, and they're already a court official, so they've got standing in the court, so there's no issues with that.
So there you go, have it, folks. Evictions in Oklahoma City from Bob Kyle, legendary voice from 1995. That's a lot of years of property management. Now, let's say, back up the tape, before we go to eviction. Eviction is usually the result of a series of things going wrong, right? So how do we start this at the very beginning to make sure we're setting ourselves up for a situation to which an eviction is very unlikely?
That comes down to effective applicant screening. It really does. We find that we charge an application fee. We sometimes find that people aren't willing to pay an application fee. That's one indicator that there may be something that they think they won't qualify for, so they don't even start that process. But for everyone that applies, we will we'll screen them through a nationwide criminal background search, a sex offender registry search. We do get a credit report on each adult in the property, so we can see how they paid as agreed with other lenders. We actually will make contact with their current landlord and their current employer and get verifications with those. So there's quite a bit of information that we gather, and it takes us a few days to do that. But that saves us trouble. What you spend in the front side will save you time on the back side.
Now, for those that may be just getting into this, they're researching about the property, renting and rental investments. Maybe they're working a job right now, they've got some extra funds that they want to then invest in either the stock market or real estate. They've decided to pick real estate. They're looking for property management companies. You're obviously a property manager yourself. You've obviously got a conflict of interest on this question here, but what would you recommend to them when they're searching around in Oklahoma City, comparing property management companies? What is the real metrics that are the difference between companies?
Well, for us, we differentiate ourselves in that we want to manage properties in a geographic area where we can actually have proper oversight. I know of companies that will manage properties way outside of the Oklahoma City area. I've talked to people who said, if I can get there in an hour's drive or hour and a half drive, that's good enough for me. My experience is, if something starts to go sideways at a property that far away from your office, you're not going to be out there checking on that property with any frequency. So I think you're good to look for a quality property manager that is kind of in your section of town, if you will. Okay. Next thing would be to just really be sure you understand what services are being provided for the fees you're paying, and look for add-on fees. Sometimes you'll see a report come through and you've never seen a certain charge from your property manager before, and then you question, so what's that for? Well, it might have been in your property management agreement that if this event happened, then we charge X amount to handle that criteria. Sometimes it's like meeting an insurance adjuster. If you have a roof claim, there'll be an extra charge for the extra time for the property manager to go out and meet with the adjuster. We don't do that, but those are ancillary types of charges you can see if you don't scrutinize your property management agreement well and know what could happen.
Folks, you've been listening to the voice of Bob Kyle here at Oklahoma City Real Estate Show. If you're interested in learning more about Bob Kyle's processes, about how he treats his tenants, or about how he treats his landlords, about how their rent analysis works, you can check him out at OKCHomes4u.com. They've got an About Us section. You can read about his family. It is a family-run business. They just celebrated their 10th year. Now, he's been in investment real estate since 1995, started his own company in 2009. This year, celebrating your 10th year anniversary. Not newbies to the scene. They've been through this fluctuation. They've been here when we've been statistically a linear market. Now, of course, we're getting into these uncharted territory of volatility. And so having someone with wisdom in our market is more key than ever. You can even call Bob on the website. They've got a phone number on there. You can talk with him. You can get and find out if he's the property manager for you. I guarantee you, you're going to notice a difference when you check out this company just by their rent analysis, and they're really in it for the long package here. They're not just looking to get some quick, sprinkly little things. They're looking for the real deal, and also saving you time by doing stuff that they've learned over the years. So learn from their mistakes. They're going to apply all that wisdom to your portfolio. So, Bob, thanks for coming on the show today.
My
really
pleasure.
appreciate that. Genuine voice here. A property manager with morals and values. Bob Kyle with OKC Homes for You. Thanks for watching. You can check out OKCRealEstateShow.com. Call us at the show anytime, 405-367-1067. Thanks for watching.
For more information and to listen or watch online, visit OKCRealEstateShow.com.